are now locked into the Live with Brandon Blakney podcast. Here is your host, Brandon Blakney.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Blakney, aka Brandon Lee. Thank y'all for all the love and the support. This evening, I got Mr. Langston Wertz joining me from the Charlotte Observer. Langston, first off, man, I love to give my guests their flowers. So I just want you to know, appreciate you, man, just being a great role model out there in the media world for the young journalists coming up, kicking free game, and just being one of the most prominent writers out there in Charlotte, man. So just congratulations for just doing your thing out there, man.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on your show. I'm glad to see you still in the business doing your thing. I remember years ago when you were interning trying to get in, so I'm real happy to see another young brother get in, and I hope you stay because we're still too few between in this business.
Absolutely. And that's kind of, well, we're going to touch on that in a little bit, but I kind of just want to give you a chance to tell you a little bit of background about you, where your love of sports came from, and how you got into this industry.
Well, I've always loved sports ever since I was a little kid. Like anybody else, I grew up watching sports on television. I actually grew up when I was younger in New York. My dad would take me to Shea Stadium. And the very first football game I saw in Shea Stadium was the Jets playing the Steelers. The Steelers had a black quarterback.
Hey, Diz, I was just texting you. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I just looked over and he wasn't on the screen anymore. He must have got kicked off. Well, I can edit because it's still recording.
Yeah. Yeah, he just dropped off out of nowhere. I've never seen that happen before.
Text him and see because he wasn't on his phone. I thought he was on his laptop.
Yeah, I think he was. Oh, okay. Okay, he said his computer just started updating his desktop.
His what now?
He said his laptop was up, just like started an update in the middle of it, so he's hopping on his desktop.
Oh, all right.
Man,
Windows be doing that too. Like it'll be like you'll be on your computer for like 2 hours, and all of a sudden it'll just hit like right when you're about to record something.
Bro, it almost happened to me before you let me in the room. I already know it was crazy.
Yours keeps freezing up. Are you on like a Wi-Fi, or are you like hardlined in on whatever you're on? What are you on right now?
I'm on Wi-Fi. You want me to refresh and come back in?
Yeah, you can do that. Or do you have a way to hardline in?
My setup wouldn't be as good. Give me 1 sec. Hold on. I'm just gonna
Strip club intent in Fort Myers Beach. Fantasies reopening under tent. Why are they in a tent?
I don't know.
Okay, you gotta. Oh.
with that not going at the same time, it should be fine.
Say that again now.
I said I just turned my PlayStation off. I forgot I was streaming, so maybe that'll
Oh, okay.
Change
Right.
it. Am I sounding better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that, fellas. I was on my laptop and it decided it wanted to run upload the software, and I tried to stop it, and I thought I stopped it, but then it just completely crashed. So I mean, it didn't crash, but it just rebooted itself.
Yeah.
Well, you look way better now. Whatever you switched over
You got
to.
the
I'm
Yeah.
observer background, the
got-
Charlotte Kirk.
Yeah, it's crispy.
I'm in my home studio now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was on the couch before.
All right. Well, let's start it over then, because y'all only got like a minute into it.
All right, cool.
You want to start it like from the very beginning, or
Yeah, I'm gonna run the video again.
okay?
I'm running the intro again because I can't. It's StreamYard. I can't stop the recording. So, just stand by.
All right.
Okay, that's cool.
You are now locked into the Live with Brandon Blakney podcast. Here is your host, Brandon Blakney.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Blakney, aka Brandon Lee TV, back at it again. Got my guy Langston Wertz joining us tonight. I wanted to take a chance, like I said before, to give you your flowers again, man, just for being that role model, being older guy in the game, giving back to the younger generation of writers and journalists and all types of communications people, and also just doing your thing in Charlotte, man. I know it's definitely not easy down there, but definitely rewarding.
No, it's been fun. I've been in the business for a long time, but I love to see young brothers like yourself getting in because, like I said earlier, there are too few of us with too few and far between, and just like to see more of us in the business, and it's really good, especially in the sports business. It's really good to see more of us getting in, and I applaud you for sticking it out. I remember you an intern trying to get in, and now you're doing your thing, so it's pretty cool.
Hey, no doubt, no doubt. It's definitely it's a grind. It's a grind for sure. I honestly, before we get into all that though, I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit about your background, how
Right.
you got introduced to sports, that passion, where that love came from, and how you turned it into a career.
Well, man, I've always loved sports. I mean, I was a little kid. I would watch, football on Sundays and basketball. And, when I was a kid, the NBA finals were on replays. We would watch them like Tuesday afternoon. They'd interrupt the soap operas to put on basketball. And, but when I was a kid, I was living in New York, man. We would go to Shea Stadium all the time. The first football game I ever saw was the Jets and the Steelers. And Joe Gilliam was a black quarterback who was playing for the Steelers. Terry Bradshaw, who you know from Fox, hosting the games. He was their starting quarterback, but he was injured. And back then, the black quarterback, that didn't happen. I was like, man, they got a black quarterback. So the Steelers became my team, and I just followed them. And I loved the Steelers until we had the Panthers here. And that's kind of where my sports love came from. Just watching them on television, seeing that Steelers game really made me become a huge sports fan. And when I got to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was taking an English class, and they had us write a paper, and we had to find a student, that was in class with you to grade your paper. You grade that paper, then turn them in. And the young lady who graded my paper said, "Langston, you're a really good writer." I said, "What?" I mean, I had no idea. And she said, "You got to try out for the student newspaper." So I did. And the guy that was the editor of the Daily Tar Heel at the time was Scott Fowler, who's now one of my coworkers. And Scott hired me. And I got behind a computer. I fell in love with it. And I just said, this is what I want to do. And I was 20 years old maybe. And, the Charlotte Observer wouldn't give me an internship. They turned me down 3 times. And but they did offer me a job when I got out of school. I never thought I'd still be doing it, but I really like it. And, Charlotte's home, and I know the area. And, I've tried to, make it. I try to do well in the coverage, and I want to leave it better than when I found it.
Absolutely. How would you describe your journey through the writing industry and just evolving over the years and just getting better, sharpening that craft?
Man, it's changed so much. When I started, nobody talked to players. I mean, that was the weirdest thing to me. Is like, we would go out to cover games, college, high school, not so much the pros, but we didn't have, when I started, there was no pro sports in Charlotte. It was just wrestling. But they just, nobody talked to the players. It was just always talk to the coaches. And I would go talk to the players. I was like, but they're playing, and people would look at me like I had 3 heads. Like, why are you talking to the players? And I would go write feature stories about the players that didn't, and they weren't just about what the coach said. I wanted to talk to the player, and I wanted to talk to mama and grandma. And I guess, back then the business was dominated by white journalists, and they were covering a lot of black kids. And I was just comfortable going in those kids' houses and environments, and that kind of played to my benefit early in my career because I was willing to go places or could go places that everybody couldn't go. And I thought I was a pretty good writer. So kind of what I hung my hat on was my ability to write what we call takeout stories, long feature stories on players. And so I did that a lot, and it got me I started out in the Gaston Observer, which was our bureau in Gastonia. And I stayed there about 10 months. They brought me over to Charlotte. And, I was sitting in the room with guys that I idolized. I grew up reading Ron Green Jr., Stan Olsen, Leonard Lay, the guys that I would, when I was at the Daily Tar Heel, I was trying to not copy them, obviously, but like emulate what they're doing. And here I am sitting with them. I was intimidating, I used to get the paper every morning and then run to see what Ron Green wrote. And here I am sitting beside Ron Green. And, they're all older than me. It's not like now where, young kids get hired. Like I work with a bunch of, kids. I mean, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They're just fresh out of college, 22, 23. The Charlotte Observer didn't hire you at that point. And they hired me. I was 22. And I was like probably 7, 8 years or younger than anybody else there. And it was, it was weird. The majority of our sports department were in their 30s. And they had families. And, I was a little kid. But I learned a lot. It was hard. I did catch some. You're only here because. I caught some of that. But, I was doing what I love to do, and I kind of felt like I found my niche. And I was covering CIAA. I was covering Wake Forest, South Carolina in high schools, and I was working 9,000 hours a week. But I didn't care, man, because I was living my dream. It was fun.
What do you think some of the challenges were that you did face, and how do you think that it's changed or improved over the years?
The challenges I faced were just being young at a level of paper that required a lot of experience. That's changed now, obviously. But I benefited because I had the departments were so much bigger. We had 34 sports writers not sports writers, but 34 member sports team. Now we have 8. And so they had a lot more time to work with me, and I got to learn from guys who were really, really good. Gary Schwab, the guy who hired me to come to Charlotte, was my executive sports editor for 20 some odd years, and he's one of the best editors in the country. And he would spend hours with me, working on stories. And he'd mark up my stories with a yellow highlight. I used to hate it. We would go in his office, and he word for word break this stuff down, and I appreciate it now. And so when people ask me to do that kind of thing or talk to them or do interviews, I probably talk to college kids 2 or 3 times a week that are working on papers. I want to give back because people gave back to me. How's it changed? It's gotten a lot more difficult because there's fewer people to work with. So you have to do more, and there's not enough people to direct you. So when you're moving to a new town, say you get a job in Cleveland, and they say, well, you're here, and you go to work the first day, but what am I supposed to do? There's not always somebody to tell you what to do. And so it's a lot harder in that way. I mean, me, as old as I am, I don't need any direction. I'm kind of, I know what's supposed to be done when. I know what a good story is. But for somebody, that's new to the job, and a lot of times new people are getting hired at bigger and bigger papers, it can be difficult. And, the other thing that's changed, there's so many more opportunities. When I came along, there was national television, which you weren't going to crack coming out of college. There were big local television, which you weren't going to crack. So you had to go to a small newspaper, a small market, a small TV station, work your way up. Now there's ESPN and Bleacher Report and, just so many websites and places to go and things to do. And that's taken a lot of the top newspaper talent and spread it out. So there's a lot more jobs than there used to be. So I think that's a definite big change in the fact you can come out of college and be covering, an NFL beat or NBA beat, out of school. I mean, I don't know if I like that, but it's possible now.
And I like that you mentioned too, just how many more outlets and, more than outlets, I guess people would say not can go and tell stories. With print being such a dying breed, how do you think that you guys have evolved as one of those bigger papers to stay relevant and stay just afloat in this game?
Well, I think Charlotte, we're lucky because we have such a vibrant market. Charlotte's a really good, It's a top 20 city in the country. I think it's top 5 to live in. I mean, it's a great place to live, and a lot of people are coming here. So we have a lot of population. For what I do, we have a huge sports market. I cover a lot of high schools. We have a huge high school market. Our high school coverage outdraws the Panthers a lot of times. I mean, there's a big market for that. And we have a lot of people that have been here for a long time, in addition to the newcomers. So they grew up with the paper and they want to hold on to it. And I think we made a pretty decent change from print to digital. Not as good as we could do, but I think it's been pretty decent. And I think they're always trying to figure out ways to make that work. And I think journalism will always be around. It's just going to change how you get it. And I think, obviously it's not going to be on the printed page very much longer.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you guys' efforts in that digital platform. I think you guys do a great job with the social media content. How has that helped you guys? And I know that must have been kind of unfamiliar territory for you when you guys first started with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've always been a techie, Brandon. I used to have a syndicated. One of my biggest regrets, I had a syndicated video game column back when video games weren't like they are now. So, and I was our newspaper chain then was called Knight Ridder. I was in 20 papers every week with a syndicated video game column. So I was getting all the free video games.
Oh man!
So every Tuesday and Thursday, everybody would crowd around the mailbox because they know those were the days that stuff was coming in. EA Sports, that makes Madden, flew me out to Orlando and put me in the Madden game. They put the cathos all on me, and I was running. And they put in one of those Madden games like 90 something. I'm in it. And you have to look for it, but I'm in it. And it's not my name, but there's a character that's me, and I don't remember what it is, but there's a character that's me that's in the game. And I regret giving that up because video games became so big. But I've always kind of been a tech person, so I've been able to, not as good as somebody like yourself, but kind of adjust to the times as we've gone, from computers to laptops to iPads to iPhones. I'm not a Chat GPT guy yet. I haven't gotten that far yet, but I tend to kind of keep up with stuff. We have a really good digital media team that helps with our social media stuff, helps with creating those Instagram cards. I think one of the biggest challenges now is that everybody has the same access to the same stuff. In the 90s, nobody had a camera except TV people and newspaper people. If you wanted to shoot, really high quality stuff, you had to go hire a professional photographer. Nobody's going to do that. Now you got 16, 17-year-old kids walking around with DSLRs, shooting on the sideline, high quality ESPN kind of stuff, editing on CapCut and iMovie and Final Cut Pro and all that other stuff. And they make it look really good. They make a living out of it. And one of the biggest issues now is there's probably too many young kids with cameras on the sideline. I feel like somebody's going to get hurt one day. But that is definitely a change because everybody has access to the same stuff. So if we make a card on Canva, you can make a card on Canva. And if you go on Instagram, everybody's got their own cards. So that's been a big change is how do you, when the people you cover are covering themselves, how do you cover them? And that's one of the big big issues with covering pro teams and big time college teams because they have entire departments dedicated to just covering them. They get when Frank Reich's hired, it's going to be on the Panthers.com. There's nothing you can do. They're going to have it first. And, you have to figure out how to navigate around that. And, I hope people are savvy enough to understand that you still want a watchdog over these things. You still want somebody to tell you when you say the councilman is, misappropriating money. You still want to know if the football coach is doing something he shouldn't be doing. You still want to have somebody that's kind of following that stuff. But a lot of the news, I mean, frankly, you can't get from these team sites, and that's a big issue that we have to figure out moving forward.
And I know, like you mentioned, the high school sports scene in Charlotte is always evolving, just so much talent. Two things I wanted to pick your brain about. One that I saw you mention was the possibility of different adjustments or alignments dealing with the conferences. And then another big one is the high school thoughts on those two things.
I didn't catch the last part of the question.
And the last part was the with basketball having shot clocks. So that's such a hot topic. I feel like everybody's always talking about it in North Carolina, wanting to have that.
Conferences, I think the state needs to definitely increase the amount of classifications we have, and that's going to affect the amount of the type of conferences you have. I would like to see Charlotte stay in its own conferences, but I think if we expand to 5A, 6A, I think 6 is probably the right number, maybe even 7. You're going to have some Charlotte teams having to join conferences outside of Charlotte simply because the number of students in the school, the ADM number, the average daily membership numbers, are going to mean that some of the smaller Charlotte schools are going to probably pair with, say, Gastonia schools or Cabarrus County schools. So it's kind of hard for me to say this conference should be this conference should be that. But I definitely think we should have 7 classifications. 4 is too few. The 1A is crazy because you can have a 1A school in the state championship game playing the school that's 3 times or 4 times as big. And I think they got to figure out the charter school issue because you have a small 1A school with 200 kids playing a charter school that might have 500 kids, but that charter school can draw from a 25-mile radius. And if you got a charter school in a big city like, Charlotte, basically Mountain Island Charter, or somewhere in Winston-Salem Prep, somewhere in Raleigh, they have access to so many more athletes than your average 1A school. And it's unfair. I always kind of felt like maybe they should have the charter schools play up a class, maybe even 2 classes. I always felt, even the parochial schools like Charlotte Catholic and Cardinal Gibbons, and they are now playing essentially up. But I think that might be a solution. I know a lot of people say they should have their own separate charter school playoff. Yeah. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. If you want to have a class that's just charter and parochial schools, I don't really have a problem with it. I don't know that that'd be my first choice, but I'm not going to, march and picket against it. The second part of your question about, I'm sorry, you tell me again what the second part was.
No, you good. And then the second, I just wanted to get your opinion on the high school shot clock debate.
Shot clock.
Is that needed in North Carolina?
We need a shot clock yesterday. I watched a tournament today. Central Cabarrus was playing in the tournament in Atlanta called the Throne. And they invited 16 teams, high school teams, some of the best in the country. They had a shot clock. It's great to see games with shot clocks. I love, to see high school teams play with shot clocks. A lot of South Carolina has shot clocks in Christmas tournaments, for example. I love to see shot clocks. It makes you coach. It keeps the game moving. I know, the people say only 3 or 4% of the kids are going to college to play sports, but it does prepare kids to go to college to play under the shot clock. It's the way every other basketball everywhere else is played with the shot clock. It's kind of the same argument when we went from slow pitch softball to fast pitch softball. A lot of people didn't want to make the move. And I said, well, wait, they play fast pitch in college, so that's what we should do. College, they play, with the shot clock. Internationally, they play with the shot clock. Pros, they play with the shot clock. I just think we should play the shot clock. Is there a cost? Yes, there's going to be a cost. But was there a cost to add, the 30-second clock to high school football? Yeah, there was a cost. And they all said, oh, we can't pay for somebody to run the clock in football. They found a way to do it. I think they can find a way to do this as well. And there's companies willing to donate shot clocks to North Carolina high schools out there. So I think we'll have it pretty soon. I think, the pressure is going to mount as everybody, all the states around us get shot clocks. But yeah, it makes the game better. And I think it's long overdue.
I agree. Just keeps the pace going. Like you said, you got to coach. And Langston, I know you've done some coaching yourself as well as, you've got 2 sons that were good basketball players as well. For you, what was that process like, just helping them navigate travel basketball, the recruitment process? What are some things that parents should know if they're going through it for the first time?
I probably would do it differently if I could go back, but it's also changed a lot. When I came up with my older son, we built the super team, and we had the best team in North Carolina. Oh, that's what we were trying to build, and we wanted to win the world and win everything, and we did that by and large. We did that quite a bit. In fact, I think I'm wearing the I used to coach in QCA, so that's the shirt I'm wearing.
Okay,
outside QCA.
Hey, shout them out.
And that was the organization we came up in as little kids. We built this it was like a little mom and pop thing. We built it up to where it was, the best in the state. We won state a whole lot of years back when it was really a state. But I think if I was doing it, I think if I could, my baby boy did the same thing, and he had a lot of success as well. But I think if I was doing it again, I would probably coach more of a local team. I think going out to Louisiana and Texas and all the places we were going, Atlanta. I mean, we were going every week all the time, trying to raise money to take these kids all over the country. Nobody cares what you did in 3rd and 4th grade. Nobody cares what you did in 7th and 8th grade. We won the Adidas Nationals in 7th and 8th grade. Nobody cares. I think. Rick Lewis, who runs Phenom Hoop Report, always tells me, just play up and play locally and save your money. Your kids get the same, better experience. Your parents save money. I think we play too many games. I think we travel too much. Those are 2 things I would do less of. We were playing when I was coaching. We were playing 70 games a year, and we would start in October. We'd have fall workouts, fall league, winter workouts. Winter league, and then we play from February till July, and we're playing almost every weekend, and if you didn't play every weekend, the parents would get mad. I just I think maybe not trying to build a super team where everybody's so competitive about playing all the time, a little bit more mom and pop, and I think I would have enjoyed it more. I think there's not enough training. I think our kids just play too much and don't train enough and work on their games. I think they don't take enough time to rest their bodies. I think they don't have enough time to do other things. I don't think basketball should dominate your life when you're in 3rd grade, because I see how hard it is when you get to college. It is a full-time, 100% job. And even at a high-level high school ball like my kids have played, it takes a lot of time. It's really hard. And, I just wish I hadn't done quite as much as we did, even though it was fun. And I know a lot of these guys on television, I coached him, I played against him. It's fun to recognize those things, but I think if I could do it again, I would play locally a lot more and play a lot less.
For sure, like you said, it does feel like a year-round thing, and I think it's good to see 2 kids just playing multiple sports too. Still,
well, it is good to see it, but honestly, Brandon, if you play multiple sports, you're going to get left behind. And I just have to tell you the truth. If you play girls volleyball and you want to play basketball in the summertime, everybody else is playing volleyball, practicing volleyball every day. So when you come back to volleyball, you're behind. It's the same with any sport. Football is the same way. Basketball is the same way. If you're not playing club basketball, travel basketball, you get left behind. Particularly when it comes to recruiting, because you got to play. You got to be live period April. You got to be high school live period June. You got your travel ball live period July. Then you start practicing August. So if you miss that spring, summer, you are way behind. And you're virtually unrecruitable unless you're like natural LeBron James. So I do like multi-sport athletes.
Yeah, but it's a year-round thing with the recruiting.
Yeah, football, you can kind of get away with it because you can run track, but I mean, is track really another sport? I mean, track is football training.
For sure. Langston, before we get out of here, man, is there anything else that you would like to say to the people? Did I miss out on anything?
No, you hit it all, man. I just enjoyed talking with you. Like I said, I love to see, another young guy coming up trying to do it. And I wish you the best of luck, man. Good luck with your podcast. Good luck with your career. Good luck with everything.
Hey, Langston, I appreciate you, man. All love. That's a wrap for us. For all the latest and the greatest, make sure you hit that subscribe button. This has been Live with Brandon Blakney. You dig?